regular Board of Trustees meeting for today, Tuesday, April 6th. And again, time is 7. Who do we have? Margaret and Catherine. Deani is here. I don't see Chris Quinn. So we have a quorum. And I just have a question before we begin. Terry, would you like some time on the agenda?
I would just like to give an update on some of the things we're doing at the state level for wildfire mitigation and opportunities I think that might fit into the Green Mountain Falls area.
Perfect. So we'll get you added to the agenda.
Okay.
So perfect. I'll let you know when you're going to be. At this time, however, let us stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Get the flag out here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So I have a couple of additions to the agenda. The first one is I would like to add Terry Carver, our state rep, immediately after the consent agenda. And following that, I want to add a brief discussion about a reappointment for a citizen to a citizens advisory council. And I would like to add that after Terry. Board, do you have anything further to add, delete, or correct?
I don't have anything. Thank you. I was going to ask to add Terry too, since I was the one that invited her and she's not on there. So, but thank you for coming, Terry.
Of course.
All right. If there was nothing further, I would move that we accept this agenda as amended.
I'll second.
There is nothing further. Please all vote by saying aye.
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 Oh, Chris is on too.
Oh, Chris, hi.
That much.
Aye.
The next item on the agenda is item 3 for persons who are present and who would like to speak. I have a list of 5 people today. Let's please remember that this is a time for people present to speak. You have 3 minutes. It is not a time for the board to engage. However, we can direct staff and sometimes we can address things later in the agenda if they are on there and if it is appropriate. So with that, sorry, I have 2 cats fighting in here and it really distracted me. The first person on my list is Todd Dixon.
Howdy, it's Todd Dixon, 11045 Iona Avenue here in Green Mountain Falls. And I just wanted to come on and call awareness to the land use code update activity that we're doing. There's been a couple postings on Facebook of the link directly to the letter itself. Within the letter, there is this actual survey written out. It can be mailed in, or you could take the Survey Monkey survey. I encourage everyone to engage with this and reply to the survey. This is what we're going to be using in the future for land use and developments on property. So I think you probably want to kind of maybe voice opinions on it. And then the other thing is, at some point I may have some paper copies, and if I do, I will post on Facebook Green Mountain Falls site where I may be if you want to just get a paper copy. Hopefully have those here this week. And then the final thing is the community meeting on the land use code is going to be on April 27th. And board and Jane, I'm willing to, if we're able to at that time, try to do a kind of a what I call a split type of meeting. If we want to try to attempt a hybrid where we're maybe doing some in person and some virtual, if that's something we want to try to engage in, I can work with staff. I've done them before with my work with the FAA. There are some nuances to where sometimes you get audio feedback and it may or may not work, but I am willing to give it a shot if folks would desire that. And that's all I have.
All right, Todd. And again, that is on the website. Is that correct? The survey?
Yes, it
Okay.
is. It's about 3 clicks down. You start the home page.
Is it just me, or can anyone else hear Todd?
No, we lost his audio.
Anyway, I think Matt is showing where it is on the home page.
Yeah.
There you
Yeah,
are.
I think there
I'm
he
starting
is.
to, sorry, I started to cut out there, but
Yep.
Can everybody see it right here?
Yeah,
Yep.
we're seeing him out.
Perfect. And we'll see where we're getting as far as COVID and all that goes about what we're going to be doing with the meeting. But stay tuned, because I know that changes at the drop of a hat.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Nancy Dixon.
Good evening. My name is Nancy Dixon. I live at 11045 Iona Avenue, the same place the guy that just talked. And I know, imagine that. And tonight I'm advocating for the Trails Ambassador Program. Hiking season is just around the corner. And I have been collaborating with Trustee Lou. And this summer I'm going to be coordinating the volunteers. So I'm promoting some visibility with this program. Matt is graciously copying some flyers for me that I'm going to be posting up around town and at some trailheads, putting some information on social media to recruit new volunteers. And Matt had a great idea about even having a separate page on the town website for just the Trail Ambassadors Program, so that we can just give some information out that way. I've even set up a specific Gmail just for its GMF Trail Ambassadors at gmail.com, so that people can, contact. And as Mayor Newberry said a few meetings ago, the secret of Green Mountain Falls is out. So really need to get some volunteers lined up and get that program going, get a good foundation for it. And then also I was really happy to see that number 10 is on the agenda. Yay, trail maps. Last October, I brought this concern up to the board about lack of trail maps with the Trail Ambassador Program. And we're really needing that tool to be successful with our job. So if there is anything I can do to help to resolve this problem before our trail season, our hiker season comes up, I'd be more than willing to help. We really need those tools to have our trail ambassadors do a successful job. So thank you so much. And it doesn't look like it's really hiking season right now outside the window, but it is right around the corner. So I appreciate if you know anyone that's interested, please send them my way. Thanks so much.
Great, Nancy, thank you. And thank you for getting that up. Next, Lamar Matthews.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. I also wanted to talk. What? Oh, my address is 11145 Hondo. I also wanted to talk this evening about number 10. I was so happy to see trail maps on the list. I know that in the past there's been concerns about providing those tools. Last year we had a huge problem with trespassing. Citizens got very frustrated near the trailheads especially, but all over, with people walking on private property, with going places where they're not supposed to go. And I think there was mentioned some kind of liability concerns. And I noticed that trails.colorado.gov has our trail maps actually already publicly posted. And I'm concerned about the liability. I know that if you go hiking, there's a list of what's so important for you to have with you: water, rain gear, and a trail map is always listed for safety reasons. And I think that we would have to think about liability as well if someone got hurt up on the mountain and there's no trail map to get help to them quickly. I think it's really important. It could mean life and death for people to have have trail maps. If there's a concern about accuracy, you can always put a disclaimer on the trail map that this may not be entirely perfect, but I don't think we can wait till we have a perfect map before we provide this tool for safety reasons. And I think it's important. I also wanted to mention we finished our quarter, and just wondering when we're going to have our budget review that we talked about doing quarterly. And last but not least, I wanted to mention that having persons not on the agenda speak this early in the meeting is somewhat difficult, because all I know is number 10 is temporary trails map. So y'all may be making a big announcement tonight that they're all printed up and ready to hand out. I have no idea what the topic is, and what's going to be said. So it would be nice if we were able to speak at the end of the meeting so that our comments would be more germane to the meeting and what's discussed, for example, on number 10. Thank you again.
Hey, Lamar, I'm
Yes.
sorry, can you repeat the website that the trail maps are on?
Trails.colorado.gov. I will try to put it in the chat, okay?
Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Rocco Blasi.
Hi, Rocco Blasi, 10955 Belvedere. I thank Representative Carver for being on the Zoom tonight. You were kind enough to talk fire mitigation with me last summer as you came door to door after Bronc Day. So welcome. Look forward to hearing your comments about fire mitigation. Quarterly budget review. This is a request, but I believe there's clearly a need for a review based on last fall's audit findings, as well as the culvert cost overruns from this winter. So also requesting quarterly budget review. Item 10, trail maps. I think a simple disclosure can address any potential concerns of liability that you may have. And I think you need to acknowledge the benefit of providing an accurate trail map to our hiking visitors. Many people use the All Trails app. You'll see people more and more often walking the roads from downtown up to the trails, and their head will be looking at their device. They're more than likely using All Trails, which is unfortunate because whatever anyone chooses to upload, whether it's accurate or not, appears for hikers to use on All Trails. So alltrails.com has no control over what the users post, so it can be inaccurate. I also believe the issue of lost hikers could be alleviated if a reliable map resource is provided. Lastly, I know we have Lena and Larry Fox on. My personal condolences to you on the loss of your son. My heart goes out to you, and I fully endorse the proposal for the memorial bench. So peace to you and your family. Thank you.
All right. And lastly, but not least, Daryl Smith.
I think I'm on. I'm on a borrowed computer, so hopefully I won't be too bad here.
Your name's Sharky.
Yeah, that's my daughter's computer, so
All right. We see
mine got hacked and wiped, so I'm following hers. So,
All right.
and I'm here basically to talk about the Trails Map 2. I'm kind of curious to see what you guys are saying and doing. I own the property up there behind the gate, between the gate and the falls on Belvedere or Falls Road, depending on when you're looking at it. I'm concerned because I don't believe that's been I actually found out yet whether it's on my property or not. So I'm here to just wait and see what you guys have to say.
All right. That's fair. And I think we will have an interesting discussion when it comes to the maps, what is going to happen.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. The next item is the consent agenda. This is the accounts payable for March 2021. Board of Trustees meeting minutes from March 2nd and the 2021 fee schedule. Board, do you want to bring out any one or all three items for discussion? Matt, has there been any change to the fee schedule, or is this the fee schedule we saw before?
Effectively the same. There was some administrative issues like spelling errors or didn't have a correct citation for the code or didn't have a citation for the code at all. And so I updated it to reflect those, and so all fees should be seen with all codes and so on. And then I wanted to make sure it got in front of you guys for reapproval again, so just in case.
Spelling is important.
I had a question about the attorney's fees. Are some of those fees for the code review?
I want to make sure Angie isn't on. Okay, or is on, and I'm not interrupting her, but I think it's a combination of the code review, and then there was a couple missed payments from a little further back that have caught up now.
And then under the general accounts payable to be recorded, does that mean that those are seen elsewhere?
We were waiting for the statements from UMB to make sure we could code them into the correct chart into the correct account in our chart of accounts. We received the UMB statements today.
Thank you.
All right. If there is nothing further, I would move that we approve this consent agenda.
I'll second.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor vote by saying aye.
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 That motion passes. None opposed. The next is Terry Carver, if you would please address regarding fire mitigation.
Well, thank you so much for the invitation to speak at your meeting tonight. I did just receive an email from the Colorado Forest Service, which does administer our local state grant program. We have a wildfire mitigation grant program where we partner with local jurisdictions. And usually that is a 50-50 match, but we made some recent changes to the program. And under some circumstances, the local jurisdiction only has to match or provide 25%. But what we have done is, because our budget revenue came in better than expected in our current fiscal year, we added $6 million to the wildfire grant program, and that additional money will open up for grant applications starting tomorrow. So this has there's a couple of different ways that these projects can be proposed. It can be a singular jurisdiction like Green Mountain Falls, applying for grant money, and whether it's a 50% match or a 25% match, you can do that in kind. So if you have volunteer hours and with the very active community that you have for trails and how you maintain your spaces, you know, the materials, the labor. We also expanded the definition of what can be counted as in kind. But there's also a process where Green Mountain Falls could partner with the National Forest Service and with CSU and with Woodland Park, or if there are neighborhood associations. But in particular, what we're trying to encourage with this additional $6 million in funding for the fiscal year we're in, we also expect to add another $10 million to this wildfire grant program for the upcoming fiscal year. And we know with all the federal lands that we have in close proximity to our neighborhoods and local jurisdictions, that sometimes the area that needs to be mitigated might be part federal land, part private land, part city or state land. And so we have this authority called Good Neighbor Authority, where we can do a joint project, especially with our federal land agencies, and do the areas that are highest hazard, even if they cross jurisdiction. So I know up in the Palmer Lake area and the Red Rocks HOA, they're adjacent to some national forest land, and this is a huge concern. So with this kind of unusual amount of money that we're seeing in this fiscal year and next fiscal year, I would strongly encourage you to look at that information, and I'm glad to send the website where the grant applications will get opened up tomorrow. I'll send that along to the town administrator. And if there's anything I can do to assist in looking at that or answering questions, but we really think this is an opportunity to make some gains on wildfire mitigation and also enhance public safety. The other thing that I'm pushing very strongly is to use some of this money or the huge amount of federal money we're going to get to see if we can build some strategic fire breaks around the state in the high hazard areas, near populated areas. And let's just have the state probably working with the federal agencies contract, and let's build these fire breaks in while we've got the money. For every $1 we spend in mitigation, we spend $20+ in fighting fire and then recovering from fire, as well as, most importantly, saving lives and property. So that's really what I wanted to report on tonight, and glad to take any questions. Also glad to post my email and cell phone number. Contact me on this or any other state issue. So that's all I have, Jane, and glad to take any questions on wildfire mitigation or any other topic.
I've got a couple of questions. First of all, Terry, thank you for accepting the invitation to come talk about this. I can't believe the timing, it's perfect.
Yes, it turned out to be.
Oh my gosh. So the first question I have is regarding in-kind. Is it for volunteer time only during the grant period? Or can we like go back to the beginning of the year or back to last year if we've got the documentation showing that people have volunteered and put hours in?
I don't know that you can go that far back. We did, and this would have been in 2019. I joined on a bill. We rewrote the wildfire grant program to try and expand as much as we could what would count as in-kind.
Okay.
So I think there is some flexibility and time period to add that in, but I'll get the current definition and make sure you have that. And be sure and check out whether you would qualify for the 25% match instead of the 50% match.
Right, right. Now also, regarding in-kind, do you have a document anywhere? Because I don't know if we've got a document for our volunteers to sign that logs the date and the number of hours. Specifically, is there a federal, or is there like a general template somewhere?
I think the Colorado Forest Service, as part of the forms they have in applying for the grant, provides not just a definition of in-kind, but how you would document that.
Perfect.
So I will make sure that my aide, Katie, checks on that, and that we get all of that information to you folks.
Okay. And one other question, what's the date for the fiscal year? Does it start in July, like most other federal stuff, or does it start in January?
Our fiscal year runs from July 1st to June 30th.
Okay.
So in the current fiscal year we're in, we're what, 2/3 of the way through?
Right.
But that's where this additional $6 million came in. And now there is some that they're going to send out immediately because folks had grants in the pipeline, but they ran out of money by the time they came up in the queue. So they're going to go ahead and fund those, but there still should be considerable money left of that $6 million in the current fiscal year, where the grant application process opens up tomorrow to still accommodate a number of projects. And then the $10 million that we expect to approve for this grant starting in the next fiscal year, which would be July 1st of this year, will start the grant program cycle anew. So if you miss this tranche, you can still look at the July 1st grant funding.
Thank you. That's all my questions. Thanks.
Okay.
Representative Carver, I'm sorry. This is Matt, the town clerk. I was curious if you would be okay with sharing your contact info in chat. We had a couple people ask about it.
Absolutely, and I am typing it in as we speak.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And just so everybody else is aware, I think we might have lost Jane.
So this is my cell phone number. Feel free to call or text, whatever your preference is. And I usually get back in 24 hours, but at least in 48 hours. So any subject, that's fine.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for your time, Representative Carver. I think, Margaret, you're going to have to fill in for a little bit because we lost Jane on the Zoom feed.
Okay.
Well, and I'm going to head out. I'm still at the state capitol, so I'm going to wrap up and head to my apartment. So have a good evening.
Go get some rest. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay. So the next thing, are we doing the discussion for reappointment? Is that where this was added in?
Yeah, I was just checking my notes real quick. This is where it was.
Okay. Do we have an application for this, or are we just reviewing a prior application? Do we know who the person is that we're looking to reappoint? Because I have no information on this at all, so I'm just kind of
So I could speak to this.
grasping.
Yeah, the mayor added this at this meeting. I was not aware.
Okay.
So either I missed an email or had some miscommunication.
Okay. So why don't we move forward with the next agenda item? And as soon as Jane is able to get back on, we'll circle back around. So we're looking at consideration of resolution 2021-09, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Green Mountain Falls, Colorado, adopting a memorial bench and brick policy. Can you give us some background on that, Matt?
I actually think this one, if Julia is here,
Oh,
it's
perfect.
probably more apt.
Sure.
Julia, are you here?
No problem.
Hi.
Hey, hello, Julia.
Okay. For this resolution, I am presenting 2021-10 number 6 for the donation of a memorial bench. This one, the bench and brick policy, my understanding was it was going to go possibly to Planning Commission first. But I'm caught off guard a little bit.
Okay. So are we doing a resolution just because we don't have this policy anywhere?
Julia, this might be on me totally, but it was in the Board of Trustees agenda packets folder, and so I included it as an agenda item.
I will be presenting number 6. Number 5, my understanding, and I believe Trustee Peterson, that this item may need to be deferred for action because it was going to go to the Planning Commission first for a recommendation to the board and would appear on the May meeting.
Okay. Okay, well, then.
Sounds like
Jane back on? Okay,
yeah, I believe
Jane,
the mayor's
do you
back.
have any background on the 2021-09 resolution? Did you hear the comments?
I do. I think what I heard is no one knew what it was about. And that it really should go before planning first. Is that what I'm understanding, Margaret?
Yes.
So let me give you a little background. Not that I put this on the agenda, but because I remember what the background on it is. Quite a few years ago, as you know, I did have the brick or paving stone. It was basically a drive to raise money to refurbish the gazebo. And a trustee at that time, Mr. King, took that program over, and he administered getting the paving stones, and then it kind of petered out as things do. And then once in a while, someone will call and say, I really want to do one of those stones. Well, for a long time, it was just not cost effective to do one. You really want to do quite a few at one time. And we really don't have any policy in place, and we need to adopt a policy so that we can have this program ongoing. Kind of at the same time, people were getting memorial benches. And at one time we had so many benches that the board decided this is enough. We're getting way too many benches. But over the years, things happen and we move them different places, and some of them need to be replaced and so on and so forth. And so this resolution is just going to actually address a need that people have expressed, because the town means so much to so many people, they do want to memorialize one of their loved ones in the town and also do some good for the town. There is a very modest profit line usually in this sort of thing, slightly above cost, and it goes to parks or whatever. But that can be discussed at another time if this actually needs to go planning first. So that's the background on that. So
Apologies for the confusion to everybody on that one. That's totally my bad on including it on the agenda this evening.
It's all good because I like to get it out there, especially this time of year, because there are so many people that come back for the summer and this is what they start thinking about. So it's actually very timely, and I'm glad we have it before the board to consider. And Todd is here from planning, so I know he will take it right to the top of the planning list, and we'll be all happy with that. So I would just actually make a motion that we put this back to Planning Commission.
I'll second.
If there's no further discussion, all those in favor vote by saying aye.
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 And hearing no nay, that motion passes. Clause out on my Zoom fail. I did miss one item that I had added to the agenda, and that comes to us from the Community Development Advisory Board. For a long time, Tyler Stevens has been a representative on this board, and his term expires May 1st. It's a 5-year term, and he has asked, and El Paso County Board of County Commissioners agrees, if he could be reappointed. So board, I would like to motion that we reappoint him, and we can discuss if you have anyone else you would prefer to have there.
And this isn't a committee that has to be an elected official. It's just anyone in general.
Yep, it's community development. And we need to get a letter drafted and to them before April 15th. So that is the haste in doing this. So there is a motion on the table to reappoint Tyler Stevens.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
No, I think he's been helpful in advocating for the community, and I think he's got a lot of knowledge base there. So if he's excited to serve, I think it would be good to support that.
Mm-hmm. I think he's excited, and I think that's very good. So all those in favor vote by saying aye.
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 Hearing no nays, that motion passes, which reminded me, because you talked about community development block grant. I got this handy dandy recreation management catalog. This is so I'm reminding myself. And it has a whole lot of the latest playground trends for accessible playground equipment. And so I will leave this at Town Hall for you guys who are working on this grant, because I thought it was kind of cool and you'll enjoy looking at it. Very cool stuff. All right, that was a motion, that was a pass. Let's move on to consideration of resolution 2021-10. This is a resolution of the Planning Commission of the Town of Green Mountain Falls recommending approval of a donation agreement for a granite bench in Lake Park. Board, as you know, and you have seen the materials, this is a donation by Lena and Larry Fox, memorializing their son. And first of all, if you have any questions for Matt, and then we will go from there. Well, I'll go ahead. This passed resoundingly by Planning Commission. And it's also recommended by our staff to accept. And I'll keep talking until someone else does.
Okay, well, I want to move to approve the resolution. You know, everything looks really good. And Lena and Larry, thank you for this generous offer of a donation. I think it's going to be a wonderful way to memorialize your son.
I would second that motion, and I'm overwhelmed at the generosity, and you know, just my heart goes out to you, and thank you for thinking of the town this way.
Yeah. So
I appreciate all the thought that went into the planning of it. It's the choice of materials and the design and everything. It's very thoughtful, and it will be a lasting tribute. Thank you.
mm-hmm.
So motion second. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor vote by saying aye.
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 Hearing no opposition, that motion passes. Again, thank you so much. The next item on the agenda, consideration of grading and erosion control plan, GRA 2020, gotta get new glasses, 03 for development of the Upper Trail at 10325 West US Highway 24. Julia, do you want to address this briefly?
Sure. This is just a component that was brought to you during the Red Devil Mountain annexation concept plan. It's a trail that connects the public restroom facility with that's sited on the Johnson parcel with the Skyspace art installation on the Red Devil parcel that was recently annexed. The code doesn't dictate any standards. However, grading and fill requires both PC and BOT approval. The Planning Commission recommended approval with the condition that Kiowa Engineering reviews to minimize off-site erosion and drainage. And they have completed their review and approved it. So now this is coming to you.
All right, board, any questions? Hearing none, I would consider approving. Let's move to approve the grading erosion control plan for the Upper Trail.
Second.
There's no discussion. All those in favor vote by saying aye.
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 Hearing no opposition, that motion passes. Similarly, the next item is consideration of grading and erosion control plan, GRA 2020-04, for the Skyspace art installation at 10400 El Paso Avenue. Julia, was there any more concern about Skyspace, or is it a similar discussion?
It's a similar discussion with even less earth disturbance. The Planning Commission recommended approval with the condition, same condition.
And has Kiowa completed their work?
Yes. And they sent a memo to approve on the 4th of April.
All right. Board, any questions or discussion?
No.
All right. I would move to approve the grading and erosion control plan, GRA 2020-04, for the Skyspace art installation.
I'll second.
If there is no further discussion, all those in favor vote by saying aye.
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 There is no opposition. That motion passes. Thank you all, and thank you, Kiowa. Item 11, approval of officers elected by the Fire Mitigation Committee. At this time, they have elected Vice Chair Nathan Scott. Or do you have any questions about Mr. Scott serving in this capacity?
No.
Then I would move to approve their election of Mr. Scott.
I'll second.
No further discussion. All those in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Hearing no opposition, that motion passes. The next item on the agenda is temporary trail maps. It would appear this is one of the items people are most interested in. The memo that you have in your packet, let me read briefly for people attending. On 3/24/2021, at the regularly scheduled meeting, the Parks, Recreation, and Trails Committee began discussions regarding developing brochures for hikers and trail ambassadors to use in navigate GMF this summer, as well as to train new trail ambassadors. Due to circumstances outside of the committee's control, including property disputes between the town and private property owners, and lack of quality maps to reflect these disputes, the PRT committee is stuck in the development of adequate trail maps for the 2021 season. Town staff and the PRT committee are requesting guidance from the board on how to proceed to developing temporary trail maps that are legal and can be used for training, informational, and navigational purposes. One of the larger questions that sits behind this right now, as Mr. Smith alluded to during public comment, is there is some question whether the trail, the actual built trail that was built by the Trails Committee, and that sits on the west side, Catamount Falls, so it's the switchbacks that go up to Catamount. If some of those are sitting on private property, we have some indication it might be, but we don't have a survey to indicate exactly where those property lines are and what the dispute is. So where that takes us in the conversation is it isn't a matter of people not trespassing. This is a matter of we have a trail that is built, and does it guide them to trespass? We can't, essentially, are our trails encouraging someone to trespass? And of course, we don't want that, and property owners don't want that. And some of that is why we had to step back from our trail maps. I understand very much why everyone wants maps, but this is the discussion at hand. So that is some of the background I have put out there, and I would really like to hear you, board, discuss on what you think.
This is something that was brought up at the last PRT committee meeting, and it's also been something that's been an ongoing discussion with our Trail Ambassador program. And I think that there's a big push for the ambassador program to be successful. And part of being successful, I think, is providing them with some type of tool to help guide people. I mean, if that's kind of the job that we're tasked to do, we would be, in the interest of the program to have something to help guide people with. And right now, there just isn't anything. There's not even an approved temporary map that has any type of information that we can use. And so we kind of recognize where there have been limitations with moving forward. So I'd like to try and figure out, is there a way where we can work within the limitations that's acceptable to people so that we can put forward something that can be used for the hiking season? So that's kind of some background. We do have some members from the PRT committee. I think our vice chair of the committee is on tonight. I don't know if it would be okay for him to talk as well, but he can also add some background if he would like to speak as well.
I'll jump in, and we had been more or less taking this action to follow up from our discussion a couple weeks ago. Jesse distilled out our discussion of 2021 goals. And one of the first items there was locating a virtual trailhead at the base of the parking area off of Maple Street. Then enlisting more people in the ambassador program to help guide those people. And the third thing was setting a rational trail map. Now the trail map that seemed to me to be the most useful in this would at least point to trailheads as a starting point. The intrusion of visitors and hikers along city streets probably is more, I think would be more complicated within the town itself in terms of people getting out to those trails and getting out into the woods. The specific situation of the Catamount Trail is something that we can probably set aside for a couple of weeks because of the presence of the ice dam at the base. I think one of the things we could do would be to sketch out the suggestions that the Trail Committee has made and wait for feedback on each of those items. The very first thing that I think is needed is a relocation of the trailhead definition from the gazebo lake area to the parking area closer to the actual trailheads. And Clay Gafford has put together a map, a sketch of where we had speculated such a thing could go. Matt, could you put that up? This would kind of be the first step of that process.
Which map are you referring? Because I don't believe it's in this agenda.
Okay, it's not in the agenda. We sent that to you earlier.
Yeah.
We can set that aside and combine those with some other background for the team, but it's essentially a signpost or kiosk that would go at the base of in the parking area next to Maple Street. We had that earlier. I could share it if you wanted.
It's just going to take me a sec to pull this up.
Okay.
Give me one
Okay.
moment.
Well, let's. Okay. While Matt is doing that, I would wonder, just ask the board. This was one of the discussion points in the PRT committee. Is a new signpost kiosk a good starting point? That kiosk would probably list background on the individual trails, would post a map of the trailheads or a map of trails as they are approved by the board, and some general rules about trailhead etiquette or some general comments on trailhead etiquette or background. Does anyone from the board have a suggestion or comment on what we need to do with such a proposal? Is it appropriate to have a new kiosk?
I think it's being considered as part of the sign process that we are looking for this summer. So yeah, I think it's incredibly appropriate, and I think moving the trailhead off of Lake Street and closer to the pool just makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so we're on the right track to start. We need to flesh out the details. I was going to start with Clay's map of that, or his proposed map of that area. If Matt doesn't have it, I can get to it in a couple seconds here and bring that up.
And Jane, as part of that signage committee, I mean, it was kind of created, but without any budget for creating, some of these projects. I guess, where would that money come from?
Well, we did get the we did get a grant for the, for signage and parking, and I would assume this can be part of that. And
Can I
I
jump
may-
in here, Madam Mayor? This is Angie.
Please.
So there is $30,000 to the Kirkpatrick Family Foundation that was slated in a grant for signage, wayfinding signage. There is a committee. Jesse Stroop is leading that committee, and they're putting that committee together to come up with wayfinding signage, a wayfinding signage proposal to present to the board. If you're interested in participating in that, definitely reach out to Jesse. Also, you know, if we find that in addition to that funding, we still need more signage, we do have the option of our in-house sign making machine. We can do metal signage up to 4 feet by 4 feet, maybe 4 feet by 5 feet, if I'm recalling correctly. That's a pretty large sign. But anyways, those are options for signage and funding.
Okay, this is the location Clay was suggesting for the sign. You have to kind of turn your head to get normal orientation, but it runs roughly southeast is at the top of the page, and northwest would be at the bottom. But it would be deeper into the just beyond the edge of the parking area, set of signs set back onto the sloped area that drops down to Catamount Creek. And he's drawn a good representation of a sign similar to the signs that are on other areas of the trail or present on at the old trailhead by Gazebo Lake, providing a map and some details about the trails. And this would be the direction one would want to go in for starters. This would give us a trailhead and description close to the area that is the most common parking area for hikers. Anybody else have any thoughts? Again, suggestions or comments about how we could do this?
And just in chat, I think Nancy brought up a great point that this would also help the ambassadors facilitate doing their job just with the way that the location kind of naturally directs people with the flow to the trails.
Right, I think the location makes a lot of sense. It also would give a little bit more weight if someone on Park Recs and Trail wanted to write a proposal for another bathroom facility over by the pool, because it directs people here. It would make a smart point for a grant, bathroom grants.
Okay, would Jane, are you thinking a grant to support porta potties or a set of bathrooms right there at the trailhead?
I think we have to think bigger and more permanent and think of having some sort of bathroom facility. Because most people don't want to give a grant for porta potties. They think more in terms of, you know, a facility. And of course, that wouldn't be for this year, but I think that's future planning, and that's a smart item to roll in there.
Yeah, I would say let's aim for our dream, and then we can scale back as we need to with the funding that we actually receive.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, if we're dreaming, I think it'd be great if we had an interactive kiosk for the trailheads.
Well, and you know that was brought up as a possibility from the parking presentations. So we can see what happens when those start rolling in.
This is Angie. So there's definitely some really lovely options that have come through in the parking proposals for virtual maps available, the ability to survey people through an app, all kinds of stuff that we can utilize to make the trails experience for our visitors. that are using parking, or anybody that wants to use that virtual service that's visiting town, residents, whomever, making that experience a better experience. So that stuff, hopefully we'll have some more information on that at the next meeting. If not, a second meeting this month, which will be next, or the 20th, then it would be on May 4th that we'd have that included in the parking presentation.
Okay.
Just to kind of bring it back to the trail map issue, you know, I think with regard to recruiting ambassadors, we wanted to try and start scheduling orientation trainings for new volunteers. And part of that, it means, you know, showing them where things are in relation to the town. And so I just wanted to kind of get a sense from the board and from town management of, you know, what could we potentially put together to help with the ambassador training. You know, is there something that we can get together quickly that would be okay with everyone? Whether that's, you know, ideally what we would like to have is, you know, a map that shows parking, where the restrooms are, where the trailheads are. You know, ideally we would like to have the maps, the routes on them as well, but at a minimum, you know, showing people where facilities are. As, you know, it would be important to have the ambassadors even do their job.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a couple of maps that we can use as discussion points just to make sure we're on the right path. Matt, if I can grab the screen.
This is Angie, just real quick. The only guidance that I received about the trails actually being on the map is just that we were asked by CSU and by the Forest Service that if those unsanctioned trails were on their property, just to take that portion of it off of the map. Other than that, we can put anything that's in the bounds of GMF, we can totally put that on there. That was the only guidance that I had, a request from the Forest Service and CSU.
Okay. So Angie, if that, with that, would a map that showed the relationship of trailheads, parking areas, and facilities within the town boundaries, would that be okay?
Absolutely. That would be wonderful.
Okay. Again, Matt, if you want to, if I could either grab the screen or you could put up the Excel spreadsheet that I sent to you earlier.
So go ahead and share.
Okay. Okay. All right. You should see a my simplified version of a presentation. I use Excel a lot. This is an old map that the former Trails Committee had put together. Sort of a this is a straw man, shall we say, a reference for the group to say, is this the right way to present something? This is a little obsolete because some of the trails are changing as we go forward, but it highlights parking areas. Here's the parking area down along, down by Mountain Road. Here is a parking area in town near Gazebo Lake. And here's the parking areas that are mainly used, Maple Street, and then along Olathe. The trail map that Clay proposed would sit right about here, which again is one of the main reference points for trails. Hikers typically come up and hike up Hondo to go to Catamount. They would hike up Hondo and loop around to either get to the Thomas Trail entrances off of Foster or Mountain Road or off Boulder Street. Would something like this, updated for today's situation, be the right way to present something? Let's call this a starting point for the town. We could edit this map We could edit the Cotrex map. I've shifted to the Colorado Trails. I'm sorry, I forget how the acronym was constructed, but this is a piece of the Cotrex map that was discussed earlier. This again shows the roads in Green Mountain Falls. They're not labeled, but they could be modified. Here is a trailhead in town. That's the current trailhead near Gazebo Lake. There's a reference here for Mount Dewey Trail parking. That's close to the Maple Street parking area. It shows the Mount Dewey Trail, Mount Dewey, then down to Bratton. It shows Catamount Falls access from Hondo. It does not show any access from Belvedere. And it shows the access to the Wallace Reserve, which is an area that probably is much less used than the Catamount trails, and probably would serve a lot of the people in who come to our community much better. There's a lot of folks who climb Catamount who are, shall we say, less than comfortable on that trail, and that may precipitate some of the complications that we've seen where people are crossing property boundaries or not being not displaying the kind of etiquette we'd hope to have. So one of those kinds of maps could be edited and serve as a start for the trailhead. I made a little sketch of that trailhead signage that Clay sketched. This is in the style of the markers that are present on Dewey or present at the base of the old trailhead. We'd have a map and some verbiage that describes the individual trails. Well, this was kind of my speculation, and I am offering it as a talking point for the group, and especially the Board of Trustees. What do we want to say about the trails that we have?
So one concern that I have is if there are still property disputes anywhere, do we have anything that really clarifies what areas are still under dispute? Does anyone know?
I've switched to a screen which would be the right-hand summary in that trail map. Can people see this? It's a
no, it's really small.
okay, let me increase the size.
There we go.
All right, this would be alongside the map. One of the things we do really need is a summary of the trail description. At the very top, I've just said Catamount is one of the most popular trails. It's one of the ones that shows up on everyone's radar. Oh, I want to go see the waterfall. The trailhead location is at Hondo Avenue. You have a marker for the trail, a blue dot that you follow to the top. The distance of the trail is a little over 6 miles. You climb 1,600 feet. And under conditions, we could make a statement about the current closure or concern. Right now, regardless of whether concern, it's not a place you want to be. There is a very nice sign that the town has placed at the base of Hondo, or at the top of Hondo, saying that there's an ice dam and it's dangerous to travel. I saw that the Colorado Springs Utilities is also not recommending, not allowing their people to go up there because of the potential danger of slipping and injuring themselves. So I would put, I've just sketched a couple of notes as best I understand them. They are certainly not as detailed as they might be. There may be some corrections or augmentations that are needed. But what I've tried to do is just put this together as a quick reference for the trails in the town. For example, here's a Wallace Reserve. That's a lot. There's several references there. There's certainly a number of things that we have. People may understand that the Terrell and the Pittman trails are coming along. And we would want to tell people that they are not open today.
Well, I like this a lot. I like to be able to have the descriptor. Personally, I prefer the first map, the very simple map. And part of the reason is, while those of us who've lived and hiked here for a while know that there's trails up on Pikes Peak, we can't have anything that shows that our trails might even hint to connect, because it goes through CSU land, and they really don't want us to show that sort of connection.
Okay.
So I think this more simple, simplistic maybe might serve our purposes better. And Mr. Smith can comment on this, but as I understand the problem that we have right now with the Catamount, it isn't where the road at the end of Belvedere is. It's actually some of the switchbacks seem to cross from what may be town land onto his private property. We do need to, we is the big term, but someone needs to have a survey so that we know for sure what is whose property, and if necessary, clean that up. But we can't really guide people incorrectly.
Okay, so the map that should be brought forward for at least the first stage would be a simplified map with trailheads. Was that the sense from the board? I'll work with the PRT group and try to edit a suitable map.
And I really like to have the key that describes the current conditions. I think it's really important, because knowing where we live, if we have that active key that people look at, we can also note things like mountain lion activity in the area and so forth. Things that we might be used to, but a lot of visitors are not. So board, I've talked enough, so.
So I'd like to ask, is there anything preventing us from moving the current trail marker just from down around the lake up to the new proposed area, or is it not feasible because of the way that it's installed? Do we know?
Angie, do you know, is that a Public Works Connect question?
Can you repeat the question?
I was just wondering if it's possible or feasible to move the current trail marker from down by the lake up to the new proposed area.
I mean, we could certainly move the trail marker if that's what you'd like to do. That's pretty easy to do.
Well, and my thought is, if it's not going to be used there anyway, and we've already got it, why not reuse it?
I mean, we certainly could move it.
So this was something that was also brought up in the PRT committee, and I think there was some benefit that was brought up in relation to the businesses that were there currently. So I guess, if that's something that's going to be considered, I would like to kind of push it back to PRT to have that further discussion about their recommendation for it.
Okay.
I'd like to see a more cohesive plan before we start moving things. That's just my take on it. I also have a question about the how these updates and conditions would actually be posted. As they change, how is the posting changed?
And who would be monitoring and changing them on a regular basis?
Right. How does that work?
Yeah. There's no formal discussions been held on that. I would imagine the best procedure would be for the PRT committee to keep that monitor. Several of us are pretty active trail hikers. I I would think that a scheme where we are responsible for passing any updates to the Board of Trustees before posting would be right. That's really your call about what review and background we need. Certainly, if it's a special case, for example, if a mountain lion begins to show up in the neighborhood, that's not something you want to wait a week for.
Right. Right. And I'm also thinking about how many people use, you know, that are looking at the internet when they're looking for trail information. And it seems like we need a presence there as soon as possible, because right now, and I don't know if any of you have any influence over the website that comes up when you Google Green Mountain Falls trails, but it's outdated, and I don't know that anybody on the trails, the PRT has any influence over that site, but it'd be great if that wasn't the first thing that pops up.
Well,
that's the one that's not sanctioned by the town too. So.
Correct.
Yeah.
Margaret, there's actually a number of sources. The one that actually is the most complicated here is the All Trails application. I'm one of the people who's served time as a trail ambassador. I've had to steer people differently about the All Trails application. All Trails once called the Crystal Falls Trail a moderate hike, and Kirkpatrick hike in the same breath. They're completely backwards. There are, I think it was Rocco put the comment out earlier. All Trails itself does not function as a vetting agent for these services. We just don't have a way of controlling every source of information or misinformation. What we can do is put a definitive statement in front of the people who come up, and I think the definitive statement would be the reference on the base of our trail map. And if it's there in hard copy, especially as some of the folks who work as trail ambassadors, we can quell some of that. Unfortunately, information is not straightforward to correct.
Well, you know, if the information was on the town website, you know, that address could be given at the trailhead so that people could access it that way.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Well, here's what I think, and we'll see what you all think. I think we've thrown out a lot of really good ideas. I think PRT is really on a good path with this. I would love to see a bit more gelled coming together. I think it's agreed we need a map. PRT, I'd also like to see you work with the town manager and maybe with our GIS and see what we can get together about the property dispute over on Catamount. See if we can get that resolved and they'll at least get some ideas just so we can figure out how to resolve that. But in the meantime, I think we are so on the right path for getting maps together and more information out there. I mean, this is a problem that I think we can solve and get ahead of it. So, board, anything further?
Actually, Mayor, this is Daryl Smith. If I could say something, I would appreciate it.
Yes, since we've talked about you a lot, you should be able to speak.
Well, I was kind of curious because somebody mentioned earlier that you could make a current map without putting the disputed areas in there. How would you do that with the Catamount Trail? Because there's a large section of it that cuts across the property. If Jay had that zoning map up again, you could see it very clearly on that zoning map.
The zoning map.
Sorry, I
is,
switched quickly. This is the Colorado Trex map
No, the
Yeah.
actual town zoning map.
right here. Yep.
So you could clearly see how much of that trail appears to be on my property. Back when Mayor Bratton and I spoke a number of times, and back in those days, everything was kind of talking to each other and shaking hands more than anything else. He assured me there'd be surveys done and that would not happen. And this only came up, I kind of neglected that land for a number of years. I was planning on retiring there. Well, got time to retire. We decided we're going to try and do something else. I put it up for sale. People looked at the zoning maps, they looked at trails map and said, we don't want anything to do with this because that trail cuts across here.
So when it comes to disputes about trails potentially being on private property, we are asking that the property owner go ahead and get a survey of your property and show us those areas with a professional survey. The town obviously does not have the funding to go out and survey all of our trails, but if there is a concern about some type of an encroachment on private property, we're more than happy to work with you. We just need to get a professional survey from you outlining your specific concerns, and then we'll work to address those together.
So then are you saying that you would refund me the cost of that professional survey?
I'm saying that you would need to get the survey done.
Okay, so basically it's coming back to me to do a survey. It should have been done by the town at the time the trail was put there.
You know, there's a challenge there too. In 2012, all of our documents burned in a fire. So we don't have that data to go and pull from a file, which in a typical town, you would have that just sitting in the back room. We could go pull that out and we'd have that information and we'd be able to resolve it a lot quicker, but we don't have that. We also don't have the money to survey the entire town.
Let me throw this out there. Not to muddy the waters, but to muddy the waters a little bit. When I had my survey property, it was registered with El Paso County. So if the trails were surveyed, would it be registered with El Paso County or Teller in this case?
Yeah, this is in Teller County, by the way.
Is that a possibility, Angie? I don't know.
You could certainly check into that. I do know that some of these trails were not town sanctioned, and a lot of that stuff was basically built and then the trailheads were donated to the town. That's kind of how it looks as far as what we were able to dig out. Mr. Bratton had a lot of those records from what I understand. What we've done is we have checked with the counties on certain things and it's just not, the paperwork just was never filed in a lot of instances. But that would be one thing that you could do, Daryl, is you could certainly check with the county if you wanted to see if they have anything that you could get for free from them that would outline your concerns.
Okay, at this point, I'm looking at around $5,000 to do a certified survey to appease my complaint that you guys did this without my permission. So I understand you guys don't have the money. Neither do I, really. And then I got to go on and try and straighten out a situation with the access road that somehow got transferred to Colorado Springs Utilities after, I don't know when, I don't know how. But when I bought that property 30 some odd years ago, that was part of the routine maintenance of Green Mountain Falls was that street. Now I have no maintenance. And to go back to your fire prevention program, there's no way in heck that a truck could get through that gate and up that road if there was an emergency up there right now. I contacted CSU last year, asked them to maintain that road. They basically blew me off. And then of course, winter set in and now they can't do anything. So there was nothing that I can see anywhere that was required of them to maintain that road in any kind of condition. So I'm fighting 2 or 3 different battles here that I should have never had to fight. And it still shows up on your maps, on your zoning map, as being a colon across my property. You sent me an email saying that was not official map.
It actually is not. It actually didn't go before the board, from my understanding, for approval during the comp planning process. So it's actually
Okay.
not, and that's something that we're looking to address during the zoning, planning and zoning land use code rewrite. All of that will be a part of that. We're also doing a municipal code rewrite to address some other issues. If you'd like to discuss more in depth on this topic, Mr. Smith, I'm happy to continue this conversation with you outside of the meeting. I understand that there are property access issues there that are outside of your control and ours at this point. But we can certainly talk more offline if you'd like.
Okay, that's fine. I just want to make sure that everybody, you know, the board and everybody else is aware of what's going on here. There's one other property owner up there that has some of the same issues, and his is with the access road getting up there. So I don't know how this would tie into your fire prevention or anything like that, but you might want to take a look at that road and see what it would take to get a vehicle up in there if you needed it for emergency.
All right.
Yeah,
Mr.
kind
Smith?
of, Lamar, I'm kind of surprised. I was on a trail maintenance trip a couple years ago where we drove through that gate in a Subaru Forester.
You can get through there with Subaru Forester, but a dual wheel vehicle will not get through there. I don't know, 2016, 2017, whenever there was those heavy rains and everything kind of washed off the side of the mountain up there, it washed a huge ditch right here at the gate. If you're in a dual wheel vehicle, you cannot get through that gate without sliding off into the ditch and hitting it.
All right, we have drifted far and away from the item on the agenda. Mr. Smith, I would really hope you pursue this conversation with our town manager, Ms. Sprang. Angie, keep me apprised, and let's think of some ways along with PRT that we can get some of these issues cleared up. I think lots of times trails have been built with much enthusiasm and much joy, and sometimes maybe some of the details have slipped to the side. So I'm so glad we're getting ahead of it with the trails map, and I want to thank all the PRT for racing after this, and I'm looking forward to what you bring back. The next item is correspondence. We have the fire mitigation meeting minutes. We have PRT meeting minutes. We have a thank you from the Census Bureau and PPRBD notice of adoption of the Colorado State Electrical Code, Colorado State Plumbing Code. Would anyone on the board like to bring out any of these items for discussion?
Mayor Newberry? I was hoping.
Matt.
Yeah, it's Matt.
All right.
I was hoping just real quick to bring out the thank you from the Census Bureau item. We received these really nice award things, and I didn't want to scan them and ruin them, so I figured I'd show everybody here. This is a thank you for the town for our work on the census, and then a shout out to Fire Mitigation recently appointed Vice Chair Nathan Scott for his work with the census as well. And so I just wanted to make sure the town and Nathan got their due.
Love that. I know census is a lot of work, and that's very important, and I hope we actually see some reward out of it. I hope everyone filled in their paperwork. I want to thank Fire Mitigation Committee and PRT for the minutes. Fire Mitigation, I hope that you got some inspiration from tonight's discussion with Terry Carver, as well as I sent some information. I spoke with Senator Michael Bennett's assistant, Annie Owen Gardner, and got some contact information for maybe working together as in a regional approach. So FMC, I hope you are as excited about that as I am. PRT, thank you for charging ahead. Anyone have any questions on correspondence? Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Trustee reports. Now is that time that we get to talk about what else we do. The first item I would like to bring up is actually about the Terrell groundbreaking. And board, we are going to be invited to see if we would like to participate in the event for groundbreaking for the new Sky Space exhibit. Jesse, are you still on?
I am still here, yes.
Would you like to speak about that briefly?
Sure, the dedication is on Saturday, April the 24th from 10:30 to 11:30. We'll be meeting at the farm stand, and Mr. Gassi and Greenbox has asked the mayor to speak at that event and has asked the Board of Trustees to consider picking up a golden shovel and helping break ground. So I have hard hats and golden shovels to order and would like to know if you all are interested, please just let me know through email.
Well, there's nothing I like better than digging a hole in the ground, so I will be there.
Thank you.
Me.
Thank you, Margaret.
All right, so those will be coming out, and thank you, and we're incredibly interested in this. And I will save my remarks for closing, my other remarks. Aren't you excited? Margaret, do you have a report?
You know, I do. First of all, I'd really like to say thank you for Fire Mitigation and PRT for all the exceptional work that they've been doing. Because, you know, we've struggled for so long and we've needed these committees for so long, and I'm so pleased that they're coming together. And just thank you guys for the dedication and the work. On a more personal note, and apologies if I'm sharing too much, but for those of you that don't know, I've had some real major health issues in the last 3 months. And I just want to say thank you to the town staff, to the mayor, to just people in general in town that have just really been supportive and been there for me. I got a cancer diagnosis in the middle of January, and 3 days before my oncology appointment in February, I came down with COVID. And then the very end of February, like my surgery was scheduled for the following week, the very beginning of March. So right now I'm still recovering from surgery. But I just want to say thank you to everyone who has been so supportive with Get Well gift baskets, Get Well snuggly things, meals, and just overall support. And I just, you know, I've grown up here in Green Mountain Falls. I love this town. This is where my heart is. And the support and the love that I've received is why I have no desire to move away. So thank you.
Well, we're so glad that you're recovering well and in good spirits, and wish I could do everything to make it all perfect and good, and I'm glad I got to help in some little way. So glad you're doing better. Catherine, do you have a report?
I don't. Everything I was planning to say, Todd Dixon already covered. So thank you.
Todd Dixon, stealing your thunder.
No, he's a big help. Thank you.
No, he's great. It's been a very, very happy time. Tiani. I think Tiani's still on there. Matt, is Tiani still on?
I was just looking real quick. I actually don't think she is. I think we might have lost her.
I think you're right. I don't think she is. Chris Quinn.
I don't have anything, but I just wanted to say good discussions today.
Good, it was. Deani says she got booted off. The power of electronics. No report, but thank you to the PRT. And thank you to Deani for putting so much work into really everything. Committee reports. Let's see, collaborative discussion regarding GMF committee goals.
I can touch on this, Mayor Newby, if you'd like.
Please.
So PRT has their annual goals ready to discuss. I figured Jesse and Jay could do a short presentation on what that looks like. And then if there are any fire mitigation committee members here, I invited them as well. They could discuss with the board, fire mitigation and PRT, if there's anything that they could synergize upon, or if that discussion is not appropriate for tonight, we can end on the PRT annual goals.
Well, I'm very curious if they have collaborative goals. And if not, I would like to see that as an actual agenda item at the next meeting, just because I think the town in general might be very interested. So committee members, do you have any brief discussion on that?
Either I can jump in or Jesse. Jesse authored a very nice distillation of the goals. The first three are the ones that we wanted to concentrate on, and those are largely the commentary we've had about trail maps, signage, and the Trail Ambassador program. And if you can bump those up, that'd probably be easier to read. But the lead one was establish a new trailhead and virtual trailhead at Pool Park. I think if you hit the little button at the top, yeah, there you go.
I'm not seeing it zoom or not on my end, so I hope it's zooming for you guys.
No, it doesn't feel like playing.
Okay, well, the wording here is establish a new trailhead and virtual trailhead at Pool Park. And it refers to the need to have a restroom, bear-proof trash receptacles, to describe the hiker's code of conduct, provide a trail map, and we said it should probably be a map of the trail heads themselves. And that would be the reference point for the trail ambassadors. And that could be reviewed periodically by the Board of Trustees to make it consistent with the town goals and town situation. The second goal was to develop a trail ambassador schedule and a program to build that up. Nancy has put out a very nice flyer that she proposed to circulate through the town to try to draw out a few more people to work that program. We're probably at about half the staff one would need to make the trail ambassadors a good buffer between the visitors and the community. So we would need more people doing that. And then the question about trail maps themselves was the third item. And then there were secondary goals, but the first three were the ones that needed to go forward. Jesse, if you want to comment on any of the others or about the steps that have been done previously, since I have just joined the group.
Certainly. So item number 5 was bear-proof trash cans at a couple of other locations in town. And our plan with all of these goals was to to come up with a plan to present to the Board of Trustees as individual goal items. We also had slated as a goal a spring work day to do some maintenance work on the Con Memorial Trail around Catamount Creek from Olathe to the post office. And that's something we'll be discussing at our next meeting. And then our last one was a fall work day where we would likely focus on Fountain Creek and sort of coordinate that with the creek cleanup week. To the right.
Yeah, exactly. We need to keep that creek cleanup week active.
Then on the right side were just some items that were either brought to us by members or citizens or that we've heard on the Board of Trustees, things to make recommendations on. So we have a list of items there that you'll be hearing from us about. And then just to sort of keep us accountable, we're going to update on what recommendations that we've made and things that we've sort of crossed off the list there.
Well, this is great, and it's great to see, you know, real achievable goals, and yeah, it's exciting, and it's great to have people with more energy in and have goals, and is, from what I see, pretty much in line with things we've talked about for some time. So I'm excited about it.
Mayor Newberry, we had a couple hands up, Ann Esch and the Clearview Lodge.
Ooh, okay. Hands up. Ann, you have something to say?
Yes, I would just like to say that, you know, I'm on the Fire Mitigation Committee, and Nathan is now the vice chairman, of course, and he's doing a great job with his, what do you call that? Setting flies around.
Yeah.
Yes, he's doing some mapping, you know, and looking at all the areas that need to be mitigated for fire. And it's just a great committee with a lot of young men on it that are hale and hearty and know what they're doing. And I'll be really glad. I've done a little work on looking for money to help, and I've kept track of the legislation. And I was so glad that Representative Carver was on. That was just wonderful, Margaret, that you arranged that. She's a real help. And I think you mentioned that the Fire Mitigation Committee and the Trails Committee should be cooperating, and I hope we can. David Douglas is our chairman, and I'm sure he's in touch with a lot of people that are in town that are working so hard. And I just wanted to say I'm just proud of everybody that's out there working so hard. Thank you.
And then Clearview Lodge. Thanks, Ann. I don't know who Clearview Lodge is, but you had your hand up.
Clearview Lodge. It's muted.
So if you want to speak Clearview Lodge, you'll have to unmute yourself.
I've asked them to unmute.
All right. We'll swing back if they decide to do that. Couple of suggestions I would have for Parks, Recs, and Trail, and for fire mitigation. It's super helpful if you reach out to CUSP and maybe have an open meeting this summer about fire mitigation on your own property, and they can discuss about the finances that they can offer. My internet connection's unstable. I might be leaving again. So reach out to CUSP, see if you can get a meeting. Also, PRT, Colorado Parks and Wildlife. We have a presentation, probably virtually right now, about living with wildlife. And it's incredibly popular and a smart thing to do, especially with our summer people rolling into town. And I just kind of think that might fall under Parks, Recs, and Trail, but it would be great if we had maybe a presentation this summer on that. and that's just a suggestion, and you don't have to do anything I say. How's that? Next is staff reports. Angie, do you have a report?
Absolutely. So I just want to thank everybody for volunteering and seeing you all work together and the time that you put into everything. I can tell you really love Green Mountain Falls, and just want to say thank you for your time and your efforts. And also put together just 5 quick bullet points of some good things going on in town. Today, actually yesterday, we posted the pool positions for getting the pool opened. So we can open the pool, we just got to staff it. If you know anybody that's interested in working at the pool, please send them our way. We also posted a planning technician position. We've been seeking some stimulus funding from PPACG, and it's looking like we might be able to get $92,000 for roads this year, which is really great news. We definitely have a couple of projects left over from flood recovery that could utilize funds. There's also additional stimulus funding coming from El Paso County, and more on that at the May meeting. I'll have a whole presentation on that. The parking stuff is moving right along. We've got some really great proposals that came in. We're hoping to have something to bring before the board if y'all are available for a second meeting this month. That would be on the 20th of April. So we're hoping to have one of those companies come out and present a full proposal and contract, pre-negotiated contract by the 20th meeting date. But if we can't get it all, the full package ironed out by the 15th or 16th for a 20th board packet, then it would be at the May 4th meeting. And that's all I got. Thanks for your time.
That sounds great. Keep us posted. We'll figure it out. But lots of good news there. Matt, do you have a report?
I just have one quick one. Madam Marriott asked me to look into where some money went for fire mitigation efforts around Belvedere. At the last meeting, I dove into this, and it looks like there was no fire mitigation work done in the budget. There was money set aside, or I'm sorry, not set aside. It was planned that we would obtain grant funding, and no funding was obtained. And so from what I could tell, no work was completed and no money was spent.
Interesting. All right. Well, we'll keep working ahead. Let's do some fire mitigation, see what money we can put towards that.
Well, can I say, you mentioned Belvedere, but there was supposed to be some fire mitigation done up above Hondo that we'd put money toward.
That's right.
That was through CUS. And we never did get a report back on that for what, because I think it got delayed. I don't know if it was seasonal or if it was because of COVID. I don't think it was because of COVID. But there was fire mitigation that we had allotted money to, but it was above Hondo that the work was supposed to be done.
Okay.
They did one day, and then COVID came in, and they couldn't do the remaining 4. So I don't know what happens.
So it sounds like I need to do a little bit more research and focus on Hondo instead of Belvedere this time.
And it looks like Rocco just put a message in there that they have 1.5 acres left, and they'll invoice 4,800 when they're complete. Because 5,000 was the number that I still had in my head that we had allocated.
Yeah, we allocated 5,000, and they had some kind of like outbreak of COVID with their workers, so they had to cease the work or stop the work for a period of time, but they still have some work left to complete before fulfilling that contract and billing us for those funds.
Okay, good. So that's still in the works. That's what we wanted to know. So.
Well, I stand corrected.
Thank you, and thanks for looking into it. At least we know where it's not on Belvedere.
Yes.
David, did you have something briefly?
David, you're asking David?
Yes.
Is that who you're, okay. Yes, I wanted to chime in on the the cusp work, we actually, in our last FMC meeting, had a presentation with photographs and graphics and whatnot on the work that's been done there. I'd like to include that in the next BOT meeting as part of the agenda pack so that we can show everybody exactly what has been done.
Perfect. That's what we want. That'll be great.
Yeah. I just did not realize that, we were going to have this level of discussion tonight about what the committees are doing. But, as far as goals are concerned, the Fire Mitigation Committee has essentially simplified our goals down to three things, which are evacuation and notification, education, and mitigation. So those are our three primary objectives. And of course, the Fire Mitigation Committee has only met in 2 actual working sessions since it was staffed with committee members. So we are not very far along with any of those 3. However, Matt was referencing a field trip that was done recently to review the Scott Avenue area that's between Hondo and Belvedere that is serious need of remediation and mitigation, and most of that is town property with some adjoining private property. So we, as a committee, will be in our next meeting developing a plan for the mitigation, and will of course be submitting that for the approval of the Board of Trustees at that time. So that's a little more of a update on what's going on with the FMC.
Good, sounds great. Glad you're working on it. You're actually making a lot of progress for 2 meetings. And I'm happy to see that. So thank you. Thanks for having some report back with that custom money.
We also have a hand up if we wanted to do additional comments. Lamar Matthews has her hand up.
David and I are sharing the iPad, and I put my hand up for David. So no, I don't have anything.
Kind of thought so, but doesn't hurt to check. Virgil, did you have a report?
Other than that, the rumors of my demise have been greatly exaggerated. I figured that April 1st was a good day to turn in my resignation, and it seems like a lot of people bought off on it. With that said,
You had me going, Virgil.
I know. I was 4 for 4 that day.
Nah, you didn't get me, man.
With that said, the parking or managed parking thing, I really think can interlace very, very well with the PRT committee as far as maps and things like that goes. We've gotten some really good proposals, and we're going over them kind of with a fine-tooth comb, because I hope the town understands my stance on this is I don't want parking meters all over town. That's not something that I'm going for or that I would endorse or allow or anything else. But they have the potential to put out virtual maps. They have the option of a website that shows our maps, shows a lot of good things about the town. This isn't just about the paid parking issue or anything else like that. It's something that is or has huge potential for Green Mountain Falls. I only moved here 4 years ago, and I love this place, and I'm gonna stand up for the citizens and do what I need to do for them. But the bottom line is, this is not the devil in disguise. it's an opportunity, a challenge, and hopefully something that will make sense. As far as moving the kiosks and stuff, that's something that we're in discussion with the parking people about. They can provide those kiosks, they can provide the signage. The term turnkey or turnkey has come up in our discussions with them, and it has been at absolutely zero startup cost to the town. Nothing, not a zilch. It's all on them. The revenue share is in negotiation right now between the manager and and a couple of potential companies. We're looking for this is not going to be a bad thing. It's really not. I don't see it as being a hindrance on anybody or a hardship on anybody. I'm not in the position to support or not support it, but from what I'm seeing, it has huge potential for us as a town. So that's my 2 cents for what it's worth. And no, I'm not resigning.
Yeah, that rumor's right there with the story parking garage that was rumored that we're gonna build that too.
What do you mean that's a rumor? I heard it was going to happen.
We'll
Okay.
put it in your office.
I'll mute myself now and leave it alone.
All right. Just wanted to say thank you to everybody. It was a bit of a long meeting, but we had some really good and I think really productive discussion. I wanted to thank everybody on the discussion in the chat because it's so easy to be negative, and it's so easy to discourage people who work so hard for the town in just volunteer capacity and in professional capacity. It's so easy to get discouraged. So just thank you to everybody tonight for being so positive and working together so well. And I think it just showed the incredible potential that we have right now and we'll have going forward. So thank you, everybody. Thanks for working so hard. Kind of re-energized by all this and really looking forward to the next meeting. So thanks, everybody. And with that, we will adjourn this meeting. The time is 8:58.